At this time, I call the meeting to order at 7:13. This is a special board meeting tonight, and I'll do roll call. Ramiro Moreno, President.
Present.
Janie Lopez,
Virtually.
President. Oscar Medrano, Secretary.
Present.
Rudy Corona, Trustee.
Present.
Ariel Cruz, Trustee.
Present.
Orlando Lopez, Trustee. Mario Silva, Trustee. Ms. Servillon,
Present.
and Mr. Weller.
Present.
Welcome, everybody, and we'll get started with the special board meeting with agenda item. Well, do we have any public comment? No public comment. Moving on to 2.1, discussion, consideration, and possible approval to accept gifts bequests for 2022-23 school year.
My recommendation is that we accept the gifts and bequests for the 22-23 school year as outlined and delineated in your board packet.
Are there any questions or comments? Okay, so at this time, do I go one at a time?
You vote,
You
yes.
vote one at a time? Y'all wanna do it like that?
Well, not one at a time. I'm sorry.
All right, at this time, I'll take a motion.
I move to accept all of the donation and bequests for the 2022-2023 school year.
I'll second that motion.
With a show of hands, all the yeas for the motion. We have one abstention.
And you too, Gulf Coast is here.
Okay. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Okay. Motion passes. 2.2, discussion, consideration, and possible approval regarding purchases over 25,000.
Yes, I recommend that we approve the purchases over 25,000 as introduced in your packet.
Second.
Oh, I have a question. On the Lead Your School, is that a program that we've used in the past? Yes.
Oh, you're talking about the Fundamental Five? No, this is something new. We're bringing on, this is the Fundamental Five high-yield practices that we are going to be using this year in the classroom. This is for any curriculum, any programming, so they're just five successful teaching strategies to impact student instruction. We do have Sean Kane that will be coming in. We've already ordered our books on the Fundamental Five, and this will correlate to our Learning Walk protocol.
So this is at the secondary level or or all levels?
It's every level.
Okay.
All right, a motion has been made. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0. 2.3, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding provision of hiring authority to interim superintendent during the summer period, including July and August of 2022.
I'm gonna take that one if I may, Ms. Vice President. I put that agenda item on the, I put that item on the agenda because of just pending people, especially professionals, teachers. Right now, we do have we've got a slew of individuals that are up for approval tonight, maybe around 60 individuals from at all different capacities. And then we do have a regular board meeting next week on Tuesday. But between then and, our next August committee meeting and our next August regular board meeting, I am suggesting that we temporarily, for these 2 months, give Ms. Servillon the authority to hire these teachers if any come up. that are going to be in the best interest of the school district so that we don't lose out to any other school districts. Right now, there's timelines that need to be met for resignations. Some that timeline may have already expired. However, if we do have those recommendations, I don't want to. I recommend that the suggestion I'm making is by giving Ms. Avellon the authority to hire those teachers without having to wait until the board meeting for this period of time. We won't run the risk of losing those candidates.
I totally agree, Mr. Moreno. I believe that we need to address that issue, and so Ms. Servillon can take over these next 2 months. We need to hire these teachers and these people, we need them real bad, so, yeah.
Mr. Weller, can we legally do that without modifying the local policy
Yes.
that was in place?
Yes, I mean, so what the board can do if it wants to provide that authority is you just,
Do we need a resolution for this, Mr. Weller?
I don't think so. He didn't hear you.
I can't hear him.
We can't
But
hear
I
you,
know
Mr. Weller.
I spoke to him
I'm
earlier, and because we do that in our district as well, the board gives the superintendent the authority just for those that period of time. There's no resolution because we're not suggesting and we're not making a change to board policy.
Okay, because I agree that this needs to be done because we need to be hiring as much as we can before the timeline. But I just want it to be very clear that I made this concern known when we initially changed this policy. And members of this board said that we can call as many meetings as we need to get this done. And
That is correct, ma'am, and I'm not gonna sit here and argue the point. This is a general board meeting, but at the time, the board, and we always refer back to the board majority. At the time, the board majority didn't have a superintendent we trusted. And so that's why those comments were made, and that's why those changes were made. And now we're slowly getting back into where we're seeing a different picture. And at this point, I'm sorry, I'm being bold at this point, but I feel that once again, and I think you agree that we don't want to mess this up. But yeah, we can call the meetings, but by the same token, there's a lack of availability on several of our board members. Some of our board members may want to take a vacation as well. And so again, I think right now the importance is not to lose out on these good candidates that are willing to come and work for our district.
And the other reason we did it, at least myself, one of the reasons that I voted to change that policy at that time was because there was too much what you call compadrismo. Because I know you get the job. Whether you have experience or not, they were putting people in positions that had no experience. Come on, we hired a party planner in one of the lead positions because that person could party plan. That was very, very inappropriate. And that's one of the reasons I decided that it was appropriate for us to change that policy. Any other questions? Is there a motion?
So move.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. 6-0. Motion passes. Moving on to 3.1, employment resignation, retirements, and terminations.
Executive session.
Can you repeat that, Ms. Janie? Is this now the time is there something that I don't see added on the agenda?
No, I'm sorry. We're going into closed session, so I'm just going to go ahead and read this. My apologies. In accordance with Texas Government Code, Open Meetings Act, the board may move into closed session for the following reasons. Section 551.071 for the purpose.
I'm sorry.
Can you mute yourself, sir? Now I lost my place. Okay, for the purpose of a private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. Section 551.074 for the purpose of considering the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment duties, discipline or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. Section 551.02, certain school board deliberations. At this time, we go to closed session.
And Ms. Lopez, just for the record, is the board going in on items, closed session items 3.1 through 3.9 under those exceptions?
Yes, sir, 3.1 through 3.9.
Okay, and and the time for the record is 7:23. Is that what you have there?
Yes,
Okay.
time
going in
now
at
is 7:23.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, welcome back. The time is 8:51 and we reconvene this meeting. Agenda item 4.3, employment resignations, retirements, and terminations.
Yes, I recommend to the board that they accept the employment, resignations, retirements, and terminations as discussed in executive session.
So moved. Second.
With a show of hands, all those in agreement, raise your right hand.
Oh, I'm going to abstain, I'm sorry.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
5 and 1 abstention. Agenda item 4.4, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of employment of Principal Fred Downs Fine Arts Academy.
Yes, I asked for I am pulling, I'm sorry, the recommendation of employment for approval for Ed Downs Elementary Fine Arts Academy of Adam Laralde.
All those in favor, the show of right hand. Motion passes 6-0. Motion carries. Thank you, sir. 4.5, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of employment of principal for Fred Booth Elementary.
Yes, tonight I am recommending for approval of employment for principal of Fred Booth Elementary, Gabriel Okumares.
Second.
All those in favor with the show of right hand? Motion
for-
passes with 6-0.
Just for the record, as Ms. Servion reads off, there needs to be a motion and then a second.
There was,
The motion made by whom? By Mr. Silva. By Mr. Silva? Okay. And seconded by Mr. Medrano? Okay. Excuse me. I didn't hear the motion.
thank you, sir. 4.6, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of employment of Executive Director of Operations.
Yes, a recommendation for approval of employment of Executive Director of Operations, Ray Saldana.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. That's 5 and 1 abstention. Four point seven, discussion, consideration and possible approval of employment of Executive Director of Administrative Services.
Yes, I am recommending for approval of employment for Executive Director of Administrative Services, Abraham Gallegos.
Second.
All those in favor with a show of the right hand? 6-0. Discussion, possible consideration, and possible approval of employment of Executive Director of Student Support Services.
Yes, recommendation approval of employment of Executive Director of Student Support Services, Leonila Peña.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0. 4.9, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of employment Chief Academic Officer.
Yes, recommended approval of employment of Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Naka McGee.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0. 4.10, discussion, consideration, and possible approval of employment of Chief Financial Officer.
Yes, recommendation for approval of employment of Chief Academic Officer, Monica Mata. I'm sorry, Chief Financial Officer, Monica Mata.
Second.
So move.
Moved by Mr. Moreno and second by Dr. Cruz. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Motion passes 6-0. 4.11, discussion and possible action regarding RFP 0622 SSF, superintendent search firm.
I move that we select TASB as a superintendent search firm.
Is there a second? Second. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Vote is 2-4. All those against,
So do we do a second recommendation?
4.
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, since that motion failed. I'd like to move that with the onset of the school year, beginning for our teachers August 1st, and the students coming back August 8th, we expedite the selection of a new superintendent and put it up for local applicants to apply so that we can hopefully get our new executive director of administrative services to advertise the vacancy and for a minimum of 10 days, and that the board take action soon thereafter. So that's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor, raise your right hand.
Five?
5-0. Motion passes.
No, there's one missing.
5. Abstain?
Somebody voted
Or
against?
no? No? Okay.
So five, 1?
5, 4, and 1 against.
Okay.
Motion passes. At this time, we move on to 5.1, adjournment. The time now is 8:58.